Welcome to Top Shelf Tech. We're coming from lockdown in Auckland, so we're all probably feeling like we could get out, get a bit of fresh air today. But today, what we've got instead is a chat with Dr. Haran Sam, we've had on the show before, talking about AWS reInvent. And today, we've actually got something really exciting to talk about. It's an announcement that you would have heard last week from AWS. Very cool for New Zealand, and we'll go a bit deeper. So Haran, welcome on, and just some exciting news out of AWS.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jeremy, thanks for having me back on the show again. Always love joining this one. And you're right. I'm like, one could feel that you could go outside actually, right? With the weather looking pretty good today, at least for now, right? Not sure how long it's going to hold up. But yeah, we had some exciting news and super thrilled, to be honest, to really talk about the biggest investment AWS has made in New Zealand to date. And it is, as we mentioned last week, it's really about the new infrastructure region, the New Zealand region within the AWS network that will be coming up here in New Zealand. So AWS is investing $7.5 billion over the next 15 years in an infrastructure region here in New Zealand. That's super exciting news for us.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. And I think, they're really big numbers that we're talking about. And I guess one of the questions that I've got is, why now? It's, we've talked about this for a while. We've had the local POPs, the edge nodes announced. I think that was last year as well. Why now?
Yeah, great question. And there are two main reasons. One, we are constantly listening to our customers, Jeremy, about what they want to do, how they want to work with AWS, and what their preferences are. And we've been hearing from the customers, like there is a preference from a number of them that they would like to keep data onshore in New Zealand. And that's one of the reasons. And again, like you mentioned, we have been here for 8 years, and we have actually invested in 2 full-fledged offices now in Auckland and Wellington. Early this year, we opened them up. We have 2 edge locations or POP locations, which we started off last year. So it's a continuity of that investment, the commitment that we actually have into New Zealand, that's just going deeper and deeper. So this is just that momentum of moving forward with that level of commitment to the country, and our customers hearing what the preferences they have. And I'll probably just take maybe a step back and explain what this really means, because the region, by definition in AWS terms, is really a cluster of data centers that are organized as availability zones. A typical region consists of at least 3 availability zones, each of them having 1 or more data centers under them. So it's really built for high availability and with the highest level of security and data privacy as well. And what this also means is, for customers in New Zealand, they actually can even get even better latency now in New Zealand itself.
Yeah, and I think a raft of options for companies. We've got AWS Outposts. We've got local zones that have kind of been options, I guess, for Kiwi companies if they wanted to have AWS in New Zealand. But now to get the full-fledged data center experience, obviously that's a lot simpler than any of those other options. So it really does just lend itself towards Kiwi businesses that want an easy entry point and want their data onshore, doesn't it?
Correct, that's right. And what it gives to the businesses here in New Zealand, and be it startups or large enterprises or public sector or non-governmental organizations or SMBs, really is that it gives access to over 200 different services from AWS, from public cloud, AWS cloud perspective, right? And these include things like not just the basic compute and storage, but also the more interesting things around for businesses today around analytics, artificial intelligence and machine learning, and Internet of Things. So bring all these breadth of services available locally. So organizations can now run applications and securely store their data locally in New Zealand, as if they prefer to do so at an even lower latency across the country. And that's one of the key advantages we see in bringing this to Aotearoa.
I think that's probably one of the biggest changes that we've observed over the last 12 months. Is we've talked about the move from cloud, where people sort of move servers, and it's always been this expectancy and this drive towards using serverless microservices and building apps on it using data and analytics, IoT, these sorts of more platform orientated services. And from our perspective, we're really seeing the uptake of that from customers, the ability to turn things up very quickly, deploy, experiment, get value from a platform in a very rapid sense, as opposed to thinking about, I've got to build servers, I've got to manage servers. So I think that's, that's a really cool thing for Kiwi businesses to have that right on their doorsteps.
Yeah, absolutely, and yeah, they're always really like excited to see the level of ambition the businesses, the local businesses have, right? I'm like, we are always looking at building for the world. We are looking at building to serve customers here in New Zealand, as well as going beyond the borders. So we are super excited to see the ambition the local businesses have to find new product or launch new products and services, or to find new business ventures. And what this brings to most of the businesses or businesses that use the cloud would be, look, the ability to innovate rapidly, and in doing so, minimize the cost of actually experimentation by going to the cloud, right? That's a big part of that. And the ability to really start off things, try things out, shut them down if it doesn't work, learn from those experiences and move forward. And that's opening up a vista of different opportunities, from new products and services, the ways to like reduce cost overall in the business operationally, right? Which helps in the growth. So that's a big part of that. And Sharmi, I'm like, when we look at the investment, we project this will actually bring about another 1,000 jobs into the country. This is equivalent of another 1,000 jobs in the country. Plus, it is estimated at about $10.8 billion into the GDP incrementally as a result of this investment alone, with all the innovation that it's going to open up, etc.
So these 1,000 jobs, let's talk about those for you don't need 1,000 people to run a data center to build regions. Where do those 1,000 jobs come from?
Correct, that's true. And it's a combination of everything that comes into what we require to run data centers, to people who are supporting others to innovate and build on the AWS cloud, and also the supporting industries around, like suppliers to construction to utility services that will be using up, that will be used for the infrastructure of the region. So it's a combination of all these things put together.
Awesome. Now, 2024 is a date that we've heard. It's actually, AWS tends to not announce things that far in advance. Now, obviously, this is a big program of work. What happens between now and the point that these data centers get launched?
Yeah, there's multiple things, and we made the decision to announce, obviously, because we felt the customers were looking for that, and they were asking for that. Like I said, there's a preference from the customers to say, hey, look, we want to sometimes keep some of the data onshore. So we felt it was the right time to make that announcement on the back of the fact that they have been here for a while. We have actually opened up offices and all these things that combine. On the other hand, really, like customers don't have to wait. There's a lot of other things. We are, like you mentioned, there are different options and different services from AWS that you can utilize if you want to keep data locally. But more than that, there's tens of thousands of customers in New Zealand who are actually using AWS services, for using regions in Sydney and other parts of the world to service their customers, right? So obviously, like we do encourage customers to look at, hey, look, you can always start your journey to the cloud now if you are not done so, right? And by doing so, you can unlock innovation in the organization. You can actually reduce overall operational cost, and it adds to the overall economic growth of the country, and that's part of that. The other part of that is really, we are doing a lot of work around skill development in the market. As you know, there is a significant challenge for businesses here in attracting and actually retaining technical skills and the workforce, especially given that we have closed the borders, etc. So we are doing a lot of programs at the moment, Jeremy, to really try and build up that skill level in the market. We launched a couple of them recently, like AWS Restart, which is specifically targeted at those who are underemployed or in between roles, right? And that's a program where it's aimed at actually building up their cloud technical skills and making them ready for the new generation of skills out there. In New Zealand, this is specifically targeting Maori and Pacifica communities because we find them underrepresented in the technology industry here. So we started that off in Auckland. The second batch is starting off in Christchurch now. So we're expanding that program.
Yeah, so like we were participated in that first round. It was fantastic. We had five interns in our office for a couple of weeks, and yeah, just from our perspective, we do see the skill shortage. We see that it's very difficult to pathway people in quick enough. So we felt the Restart program was a great way to give sort of that 3 months of very rapid upskilling, get them into a real work environment, and try to just open up a totally new pathway for people to come into building cloud services, deploying cloud, managing cloud.
Absolutely. And you raise a good point, because it's the partners like you who actually help to really execute most of these things and help other customers to really adopt the cloud and the services around that they can benefit from. So in terms of partner ecosystem, we have the likes of Instary, like you guys, were really supporting our customers, and we are building that ecosystem as well and their capability as part of that. So skill development, partner ecosystem development, all these are part of activity that we are doing right now.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And I guess, one of the things that I would have probably said a few years ago is that the data sovereignty issue had kind of gone. You can encrypt your data, you can manage it, secure it very carefully wherever it is. But we've seen a little bit of a swing back in that regard, I think, with the introduction of the Aussie backdoor law, as it's called. How much was data sovereignty a factor in the decision to invest in data centers in regions in New Zealand?
Yeah, what we're hearing, Jeremy, from customers is there's a preference from them to sometimes hold data onshore for different reasons. Sometimes it is to do with some of the perceived requirements around there, but it's a preference, and that's what we have listened to. And we felt actually more than just that part, there's a lot more benefit for the customer with even lower latency capabilities that we can provide by having infrastructure on the ground, right? And we have seen the investment we have made in New Zealand work better for our customers, so we thought, let's continue on that path. And that's a big part of that, actually really doing that. So to answer your question, it's not directly related to that, although we heard from the customers that they have a preference, and we have listened to them in making this announcement here today.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Hey, look, thanks a lot for joining us again today. I mean, I think, really exciting news to see the growth and investment coming into New Zealand. I think, mentioned there's been 8 years of investment from AWS. I think you're at a few hundred people now. Is that right?
Yeah, we are definitely over 100 people. We have hired quite a lot of people over the last 12 to 18 months. And like I mentioned, we have invested in the officers and keep on expanding the workforce as well. So we are super excited to work with the likes of you guys, Instary as our partners, and the customers as well, to really try and support, hey, how can we really make an impact to the economy of New Zealand and really take New Zealand to the world.
It's awesome. Awesome. Hey, thanks a lot again for joining us today and discussing this announcement. And we look forward to see, I guess, what comes next and as the details come out about this.
Absolutely. Super excited on our side as well. Thanks again for having me here, Jeremy. Really appreciate that.